Hi, this is Nameless Crow, and in this video I will be talking about Connor Murphy, a character from the Broadway musical DEH, or Dear Evan Hansen. Specifically, what his personality really was like. By the way, there will be many spoilers in this video, so if you haven't read the Wikipedia page, or haven't watched Dear Evan Hansen, or have watched the bootleg before it was taken off of YouTube, all I can say is do one of the things I said, or just continue watching the animatics. Either way, I'm moving on with or without you. Actually, another thing before we move on, I will undoubtedly be making a lot of song references. Don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, I just thought of Cell Block Tango. So I took the shotgun off the wall and I fired 2 warning shots. Okay, back to what I'm really here for. So I decided to create this video while watching animatics of the soundtrack, and I was inspired by a Requiem animatic by the talented Yueu. By the way, if you ever watch this, I'm sorry for butchering your username, but it only has vowels in it, so it's sort of hard to pronounce. Now, there are certain aspects of the animatic that really inspired me, and if you haven't watched their animatic yet, I'll put a link in the description down below. Also, while editing the points for this video, I remembered watching a video called Faist on Dear Evan Hansen, so I watched it again and edited this again, so I'll be putting a link for that video in the description down below as well. Now, although throughout the musical Evan talks about Connor's life, they were never really friends, and they didn't know each other that well. The only time we see Connor, who is not Evan's imaginary friend, is when he's at the table for Anybody Have a Map, and in the scene in the computer lab while Evan is printing out his letter to himself. I'll talk about that later. So all that was given about Connor was that he was smoking drugs, he was a senior in high school, part of a wealthy family, and he had no friends, and people thought he was crazy. But what if I told you that Evan might have been right about Connor? That the real Connor was similar to the imaginary spirit that Evan made up? Let me explain. So Evan depicts Connor as a loner who wants friends like he does, evident to most people by the first verse of Disappear, which goes, "Guys like you and me, we're just losers who keep waiting to be seen." Right? I mean, no one seems to care or stops to notice that we're there, so we get lost in the in-between. To stop myself from singing the entire song, it's so good! Anyway, getting back on track. His sister would agree with the majority of people who sort of knew Connor, but weren't quite up to the level of close acquaintances, since he used to bang on her door threatening to kill her. But his mother was the optimist, believing there was more to her son than he had let on, while the father was there believing he was the family provider, and he wondered why Connor would kill himself if he had a good life. But did Connor have a good life? At least in his own opinion. So after Disappear ends, Cynthia gives Evan a tie for his speech. She said that she bought it for Connor because she knew that some of his classmates were going to have birthdays and bar mitzvahs. Or bat mitzvahs, you know, I can't forget about the ladies. Yeah, we're reliable with the ladies! Okay, sorry, I had to. Anyway, she gives the tie to him saying the following. He didn't get invited to a single one. He didn't get invited to a single one. Connor didn't have friends growing up. I mean, to be fair though, he did throw a printer at his teacher in, I think, the 2nd grade. So maybe the kids were like, whoa, this kid is dangerous. You know, to say the least, but... now, here's a quote from Zoe. "That's just what happens when you're rich and you don't have a job. You get crazy." So in the show, when Zoe talks to Evan before he sings, "If I could tell her," she talks about her mother and how her life being just a housewife has affected her, but this can also be the same case for Connor. So, I would like to talk about, id, ego, and superego real quick. So if you don't know what that is, I'll explain. So there's this famous neurologist and founder of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, has this theory about the personality separating them into three categories. The id is supposedly in charge of your most primitive, instinctual, carnal desires. Sorry for being redundant. The superego is the idealized version of yourself, the part of you that has morals. And finally, you have the ego, which is in charge of balancing out your subconscious id and superego and forms of the personality you show the public eye. Your ego is your civilized side, the part of you that considers what would socially in the society be correct while maintaining who you collectively are. This is why most people are more rational than rash. So we have the image of Connor and that Evan paints throughout the musical. We have the persona that the Murphy family tells us he had, and we had the small glimpse of Connor when he was alive in only a few scenes. However, because of everyone's point of view of Connor's theoretical ego, superego, and id, it is most likely Connor felt alone and probably used drugs as his escape from the lack of friends. We only get to see Connor using drugs during his senior year of high school, and we don't know what he was like beforehand. We don't know what caused him so much stress or depression that he felt like he needed drugs to escape from whatever he was going through. Zigo was the person who everyone assumes just takes drugs for the hell of it, and maybe he did. I'm not saying this is correct. This is just speculation again. But it was just a combo of his id, which created the desire for drugs, and his superego, which told Connor, hey man, you need something to fill your void, you need something to get you through this, and maybe he just so happened to have been drug dependent because of that and got an addiction. Since Connor's family is rich, which was stated by the father, I gave you the world, you threw it away. Also, it's alluded to in the wiki. But more than likely, they only provided Connor with material things, while he wanted a real relationship with someone. The parents do not have the best reaction to Connor taking drugs. Cynthia doesn't seem to care about Connor taking drugs. At the breakfast table, she says, I don't want you to going to school high, Connor. When she should have been more worried that he's taking drugs in the first place. I mean, it's kind of like her saying, you can be high at home, which, obviously Zoe will disagree with that. You can be high at home, but not in public. Like, what? Like, if that was my child, I'd be like, my dude, stop smoking smoking pot. Anyway, as previously stated, it is known that the Murphy family is wealthy. But the wealth was obviously not enough for Connor. His dad claimed to have given him everything he could have. But did he? And anybody have a map? He doesn't seem interested in whether Connor goes to school high or not. In fact, in the song, he was more worried about the traffic on the way to work and leaves quickly. I mean, it makes sense. Cynthia's only a housewife, meaning their only source of income would come from Larry. I mean, unless Zoe or Connor had a part-time job, but, highly doubt it. This also means that he must have had a high position that must have had a large and stressful workload and long hours and stuff. So if Larry is busy, does he have enough time for his family and Connor? The thing that happens with a child that has a parent who works all the time is that they tend to grow distant, whether they notice it or not. Most likely, Connor wanted to have a meaningful relationship with his parents. Just like Connor, Evan had a parent who was busy all the time, and you can tell that there's a disconnect when it came to him and his mother. He also wants to be close to his mother, which is why, spoiler alert, if you can even call this a spoiler, in the show, Heidi promises Evan Taco Tuesday saying she won't go to work, but then forgets anyway. Evan reminds her, and she feels guilty. He tries to brush it off, saying that it's fine, but he wasn't. He was actually looking forward to having a meal with her, like his meals with the Murphys. That kind of sounds like a cooking channel show that appears at like 9 in the morning. Meals with the Murphys, or maybe Murphy's Meals. I don't know. Jesus Christ, I gotta stop talking about food, otherwise I'm gonna rate everything in my kitchen. Anyway, I actually experienced the same thing with both my parents. It was weird because even though I wanted to spend more time with them, it was weird. The more they were away, the more I sort of wanted them to stay away. It's hard to explain, but when your parents work hard to give you gifts and they are rarely home, you not only don't build social skills with them, but it's hard to build social skills in general. Just like Evan, I don't have any siblings, and it's hard for me to communicate with other people, and my mind tends to go faster than my mouth, and I end up stuttering and making word flubs. Anyway, back to